the CEO of Curta. We specialize in training, coaching, and placing recruitment professionals. Today we're here with Jeff Chaponick to talk about building your agency from the bottom up. Jeff, we put up a profile for you, and then I was looking through your LinkedIn. You've got a very an amazing background, I have to tell you. You've run your own company for 12 years. Congratulations. Before that, you started at MRI, and you were there for 3 years, moved to Lucas Group as a senior executive partner for 2 years, and then you started your own agency.
Correct.
And you've been running full tilt since 12 years ago, going on 13 years. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. I met Jeff when he was on the Recruiting Animal show. Those of you who don't know that show, it's on Wednesdays. You can look it up on Blog Talk Radio. Recruiting Animal has very interesting people coming to a show, and I talked to Animal last night, and he said you're going back on May 27th.
That is correct, because I enjoyed his banter the first time around. I wanted to go in for round 2.
Not a lot of people can stand up for it, but I think that it's an interesting show. He's got a lot more followers than he thinks he does. He has about 2,000 people that I know that listen to the podcast afterwards.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and I mean, I picked up my first client by doing his show, and my client was listening to his podcast in Italy. That was what he was doing on his vacation, which I thought was kind of interesting. So, yeah. We scripted out some questions. As business owners, there's a huge gap between running your own desk and getting to that next level. And the reason I had you come here today is because a lot of the guys on the phone, guys and girls on the phone, are independent business owners. They're trying to grow their companies. We struggle. We get to, 3 or 4 people, and then we have to turn it off or turn it on or do whatever. But we seem to never get past a certain mark, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that as we go. So I grabbed about 10 questions here. The first question is, of course, what are the top 3 things you need to grow? How to structure your team? How do you compensate your team? How to hold them accountable? How do you budget for success? And does it get easier? And advice from CEOs. And what's the future? Now, everybody here on the phone, Jeff owns his own company. He's going to give us the structure of what he's doing, and he may or may not want to share the details with us. And we can all understand that because we're all business owners. We all make the same recipe. We just put it together a little bit differently. So I would please ask you to respect Jeff's boundaries with the information he will give us. Okay?
Sure.
All right. According to the U.S. industry forecast by staffing industry analysts, we're expecting temporary staffing in the U.S. to grow by 6% in 2015. They're also reporting buyers reported 18% of their workforce was contingent in 2014, and projected 20% will be contingent in 2016. We're seeing an increase across the board. My boutique agencies have their prices up to 25 to 35%. I've never seen that before. And a lot of our contingent agencies are moving to retained models just to stop the influx of orders. How are you seeing the market right now?
We are extremely busy, and we see continued growth.
Okay. Go ahead.
I hear a huge amount. It sounds almost like a TV in the background.
Yeah, I'm going to find that person and mute them. I'm going to mute everybody right now. Okay, go ahead. Oh.
Experiencing a tremendous amount of growth in all of our verticals.
Bear with me for a second. I just need to find it. Whoever's got their phone and has got a lot of background noise, can mute your mic, please. Excuse me. Sorry, Jeff.
No worries. No worries.
Bear with me. Okay, we got him. Go ahead.
Right. No, we are seeing a tremendous amount of growth in all of our different verticals. It's a hot market right now.
How is it impacting your team?
We are on a very big hiring push right now throughout the company, trying to add more people on to help satisfy the amount of open positions that we have.
Okay. Well, I found an article by Barbara Bruno, and she gave a list of 10 things you needed to do to get ready for growth. I wanted to have you talk to us about the 3 things you set up for yourself on growth. What are the top 3 things you needed for growth?
So when I saw that question, and maybe it needs to be drilled down further, number one is you have to have a plan. Plan is the operative word here in our organization, and that means daily, weekly, monthly, yearly. The company itself has a 5-year plan, and always ongoing and evolving 5-year plan. So to me, you have to have a plan in order to grow, because if you don't know what you want to do or how you want to get there, I don't know how you do it. So that would be the first thing. Number 2 is hiring the right people, or what you deem to be the best that you can hire. And number 3 is being financially responsible.
Okay. When you talk about planning for daily, weekly, and monthly goals, I find when I'm dealing with a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of independent guys is their plan goes for a week to a month, maybe a year if I'm lucky. Okay, they might be shooting for $250 for the whole year or $500,000. When you start to put together your plans for that long a period, how much detail are you putting around it? Are you putting, need X amount of fills and X amount of people? What kind of plans are you building?
So from a financial side of planning, we have designated a certain dollar amount of new recruiters, rookies, that we feel they should be responsible for revenue generation in their first year. That's total billings. We have, of course, veteran recruiters, low-level veteran, meaning 2 to 5 year people of what we expect from them in revenue, and then the more senior people, what we expect from them in revenue.
Okay.
And so from that perspective, there's a financial plan. From a business development perspective, there's a plan on how many new clients should be added, how many job orders should be worked on at a given time, how many placements should be made monthly and yearly.
Good. And that's what I'm looking for, is the breakdown of what your plan is looking like. That's great. Thank you. I'm expecting anybody who has follow-up questions to just jump in here. Structure of your team. This is really, I found this slide and thought this was perfect. I can't tell you, my phone rings off the hook from new entrepreneurs going, do I hire a 360? Do I hire just a recruiter? Do I split it out? We have $10 million organizations asking us this question. And it's the structure of the recruitment versus sales team. Can you share with us how you have it structured, and maybe how you've had it structured in the past and how you have it structured today, and what the pitfalls are of either side?
So the way it's structured now is any recruiter that is either has billed or is in the process of billing $250,000 a year running a full desk, that qualifies them to get I'm going to call it an assistant. It's more of a project coordinator. This person is helping feed the beast. So they get involved more on the candidate recruiting side. Of course, they're not the final say, but they drive the most competent candidates to the person they're supporting. and then final qualification occurs by that account manager. It does go one level up past that, but it helps them to work on more job orders at a time and expand their billing base. On that side of the equation, it's a great training ground. It's sort of becoming a recruiter with training wheels on.
Okay.
They get to learn the candidate recruiting side while working with someone and sort of dabbling in with the client, and eventually being taught how to transition candidate marketing calls, candidate development calls into marketing calls. The hope is that they transition by that learning curve into full desk recruiters while still generating revenue for the company.
We here at Curta have estimated that a sourcing specialist could add, your project coordinators could add upwards of $100,000 to the income stream. Is that right?
We estimate it to be more than that. I mean, in my firm, the average fee is over $25,000, so that would be saying the project coordinator only was helpful in filling 4 extra positions in a year. So
okay.
We think it's more than that.
Can you give us the number or no?
Sure. Actually, it's $200,000.
So you take a $250 recruiter and give them a coordinator, and you almost double their income.
Yes.
Which is great. That's great. How long do they stay with the recruiter? How long do they stay with the full desk?
It's a minimum of a year. If you engage and take that position on, you can't say 6 months down the road, wow, I see how much money this guy is making, I want to do it myself. It doesn't work like that. You have to commit to that person for a year.
Okay. And your full desk recruiters, they go out and they generate their own business?
They generate their own business, for sure. They have their areas of expertise, and they generate their own. I'm certainly not going to say that I myself, with the things that I'm involved with, that I don't bring business into the company and move it into the area of expertise that it fits, because people still contact me and talk to me about my firm working for them and go from there.
Yeah, driving additional revenue. So have you ever worked in a split model where you come out of MRI, and I know that's a full desk model where they do both sides of the business. Have you ever worked in an environment where you have a business development person and a recruiter and they're split?
Yeah, I mean, we have that here. You know, as you evolve your business, you come across people that just love doing BD and don't want to get involved on the candidate recruiting side. And we have people internally here that team up and do the splits.
And from your position as the CEO, where are the gaps in either side of that? Which one do you prefer?
I love business development, but I say that. I'm not going to say that, you know, I'm 85% BD and 15 candidate recruiting, because I'm just the type of person that will dive and get dirt underneath my fingernails and recruit candidates for a position that a client needs.
That's great. That's great. All right. Compensation. This is another big hurdle for a lot of companies, a lot of small entrepreneurs to get over. How much do you pay the person? When do you pay them? You know, we get a lot of recruiters that will do the 50-50 split, and the salesperson or the recruiter ends up with about 25% of the deal. What kind of? I knew that you had some interesting compensation plans where you did bonuses and stuff like that. Can you talk to us a little bit about how you do it?
So there's multiple levels within my organization. So when you ask about that, I just need to clarify it, and I don't mind talking about any one of the levels. Are you talking about a full desk recruiter who is doing BD and candidate recruiting and making a placement? Let's
start there, because I'd like to work through the different options for recruiters. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay, so let's start with a full desk recruiter. What does it look like for compensation for them?
It looks like 50% of the fee generated. If they do the business development and the candidate recruiting, they're getting 50% of the deal.
Okay. So that's 25 25 on one side and 25 on the other, right?
That is correct.
Now, if you add in a project coordinator, do they lose any revenue?
No, they help pay for it.
Okay, how does that work? So it comes out of their deals, or do they have a base salary or something?
No, so if they say, listen, I'm billing, I billed $250 and I want to add a project coordinator, and that project coordinator, let's just say, has a base salary of $30,000.
Okay.
And if they bill under $100,000 with the project coordinator, they pay for it all.
Okay.
With an additional $100,000. If they bill 100 to 150, they pay three-quarters of it. And if they bill 150 or above, they only pay for half of it.
Oh, wow. Okay. And does the coordinator get compensated?
So the coordinator gets a base salary,
Yep.
and right, it runs at $30,000, and then they get bonuses for different things that occur.
Okay.
So there's a dollar amount that they get paid for every phone or face-to-face interview. They get paid bonus money for every placement. And if they're a good project coordinator, they can make a pretty decent living while learning how to transition to be a full desk recruiter.
That's great. So do you offer base salaries or draws against commission?
The recruiters get a draw against commission. The project coordinators get a base salary.
Okay. And what are your recruiters' draws looking like?
I'm a very big believer that you pay for what you get. And so it's just from a draw perspective itself, it's not a lot of money. No one is going to get rich on the draw. Mm-hmm. What they do get, I apologize, I'm sorry.
Can't be any worse than the beeping in the background. I'm happy.
Right. What they do get, I'll say this, and I'll start from the top. A full desk recruiter on a draw can earn as much as $7,000 in a month in my firm on draw, if they hit all of their numbers. Now, all their numbers is quite a bit of numbers. That's 4 hours of phone time a day. That's a certain number of new clients in a week. It's a certain number of resumes in per day. It's a certain number of submittals to the client. It's a certain number of phone or face-to-face interviews. There's a whole menu in which they get rewarded for doing what they're supposed to be doing.
So you're incenting good behavior?
Yes.
Yeah, that's great. Okay. All right. What, on average, what are your recruiters earning you? What are they making?
Within my organization, taking all full desk recruiters across the board, what's their average yearly income?
No, yeah, or no, just your recruiters. Do you have just recruiters when you do the draw, or are they full desk recruiters? They're full desk.
Those are the full desk people. I do have just strictly candidate recruiters who are on another compensation level when you're just doing the candidate recruiting side, which I think is what you're referring to. Mm-hmm. You get a different draw amount and different rewards for doing that job.
Okay. All right.
And I will say that the draw for the candidate recruiters is higher than the full desk recruiters, but the rewards for doing that job are less.
Now, why do you do that?
Because the candidate recruiter is relying on the full desk recruiter to get the deal done. And when they only have partial control of their success, I have found that you need to give them more money to live on while they're waiting for those deals to occur.
Okay. When you bring somebody in, how long before you cut them off, before you say, this isn't working for us?
90 days.
And what are you expecting in 90 days?
I'm expecting, are we talking about full desk or just candidate?
Well, let's start with full desk. What are you expecting?
I'm expecting phone times, signed fee agreements, submittals, interviews. I don't expect placements. If there's a placement within the first 90 days, that's a win. That's found money.
Okay, good.
But there are fundamentals that people have to exhibit in this organization in order to make it past the 90-day mark.
So when do you expect them to make their first placement on their full desk?
It really varies on the area that they're working in, and I'm not trying to be evasive.
No, go ahead. There's somebody interrupted. I'm going to mute him. Go ahead.
Everything varies.
Yeah?
You know, I myself.
Well, interviews going on all over the place.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I myself, when I started in the business, I mean, I had no recruiting experience. I didn't make my first placement till after the 5th month of working. So I guess I have a soft spot on that front that sometimes, you know, you have to give people a learning curve in order to ramp up. But if you see the fundamentals in place of them tracking towards success, then you give them the benefit of the doubt.
So when I work with a lot of independents, you know, I say to them, you take the first year. The first year, you'll be lucky if, you know, as long as you clear between 60 and 120 in fees, you've got a recruiter.
And my number is higher.
Okay, but your deals are also higher from what I'm gathering, too.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, so I think I'm estimating the deals are around $15K per placement, right? And then that gives you your baseline. So do you measure somebody? I mean, it sounds like as long as they're doing the fundamentals, you're okay because you're playing the law of averages, right, where a lot of companies aren't. They're going, I need a fill today. You know, when we place recruiters, we give a guarantee on production, but we say to people, when you hire your first recruiter and we train them, you got to look at the whole year, not look at the snapshot day to day.
Yeah, I tell everybody who comes work here, in fact, I even meet with their spouses if there is one. And I say, listen, if you're expecting any money in the first 6 months, that's just luck. I said, in your first year of being a recruiter, it happens from months 7 through 12.
Good. Okay. And what are you estimating that they will generate in the first year, if you don't mind me asking?
In fees or for themselves?
Fees. Let's talk fees. We've got your. Yeah, go ahead.
We have found that the number that, and it's been for years, it's not just today, we expect $160,000 in billings out of a rookie recruiter in their first year.
That's great. Okay. Any questions while I'm going through here? The mics are open, guys.
Yeah, could you just real quickly review your fundamentals? What are the 4 or 5 core, actions that you expect these people to do every day, every week, every month?
I do. Sure. Our expectation is 4 hours of phone time, a minimum of 75 to 100 dials or calls, 10 presentations, and 5 resumes in a day.
So when you say presentations, what is that? Is that
presentations can fall on both sides. Our people, it's a very structured day here. Mm-hmm. I happen to believe that people like to be told what their day should look like. Left to their own devices, they can sort of get off track.
Right.
So presentations can mean anything from in their mornings on business development, doing a presentation about the company and themselves in order to get a job order. Presentations can also mean talking to a candidate about a particular job and presenting that opportunity to them with the premise that they're driving towards finding a qualified candidate and getting their resume.
And resumes?
Can you hear?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, so is that 10 actual connect calls where you're doing presentation calls to one side or the other pretty much? Is that what you're saying?
Well, no, they'll have more connects than 10. The answer is, yes, it's 10 connects to whether it's a real business development call or a real candidate recruiting call, they'll have more connects than 10. But you'll have people that'll say, no, that job is filled. No, we don't use recruiters. No, I'm not interested in a new job. No, I won't relocate. Whatever it may be, those don't count as presentations.
Okay. That clarifies it, because normally I'm shooting for 20 to 25 conversations that usually end up in 7 to 10 resumes or job orders or something. So when you said the number 10, I was like, 10? I was trying to figure out where. I was like, that would generate me 5 or 3.
No, there's many more connects than that, as far as someone being on the other end of the phone.
Question that I have is, I'm in a position right now where I'm looking at expanding, and I'm trying to put the pieces together. I actually was with MRI for 18 years, so I'm very familiar with the MRI model. And what I'm trying to figure out is, being on my own now and taking that piece, I've got several different pieces where I have an admin of, I need somebody who's more social media and posting my jobs out there on the boards, because I used to do that for myself when I was with MRI, but in this mix of it, I also had a project coordinator. So I'm trying to figure out, do you have your project coordinators post your openings? Do you have them just do, what's the difference between the project coordinator and the candidate recruiter? Because that's pretty new to me, because in my situation, the project coordinator was my recruiter.
Sure.
Follow me on that, but
well, it sounds, and maybe I need for you to expand a little bit, when you're talking about, getting your jobs posted and maybe launching them or doing whatever, is that a job that you see a project coordinator doing, or is that more of an administrative role?
It's more administrative. I do it typically on the weekends. On Sunday, I go through and I get all of my jobs in my applicant tracking system, which then goes to my website, which then gets pulled off and goes to Simply Hired in Juju in LinkedIn. Indeed, I have to do myself. It's a separate, but that literally in itself can take me hours.
Yeah, so
I'm trying to figure out.
Of anything that advice I'm going to give on this call, this is the best thing I can tell you or anybody else that wants to listen to it, and it's absolutely amazing how it's worked for me. So there are administrative functions within my organization also, actually quite a bit of them. And they're not 40-hour-a-week jobs in certain areas, but they take, a lot of time away from you being productive when you have to do it. Even if you're doing it on the weekends, right? Your time has a value. So my headquarters is based, and I tried this just on a whim years ago, and it still works today, and it's amazing the quality of people that you get. I live in a town called Frisco, Texas. There's a small little town, although it's growing very fast, and there's an online called Frisco Online. And I put an ad on Frisco Online years ago looking for a stay-at-home mom whose kids would be at school during the day, but they wanted to get out of the house and just feel somewhat productive. I said it was a 2, 3, 4 hour a day job. You could come to the office. You could do it from home if you had a computer, but I needed someone to do just the types of things you're describing. And I said, and the job pays $10 an hour. The person that ended up doing it, if you were to go to my company's LinkedIn profile, her name is Amanda Andrews. She was a bachelor's degree and MBA from Texas A&M University in accounting, worked at a big investment company, had a baby, and wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, but just wanted to do something while the baby was sleeping, get out of her own head. She's now my company's biggest biller, but don't hesitate. And she just learned the business. She started doing launches, then she started learning how to do research, then she started talking to the candidates, and then she started talking to the clients, and now she's just a rock star. No one here on this phone is allowed to try to recruit her either.
She's worth her weight in gold. I've got one of those myself. I think we miss the fact that we need an assistant as CEO.
Yeah,
it's the last thing that we hire, right?
Yeah, it's true. But you'll be very surprised when you look just right around your neighborhood how many people, whether it's male or female, are currently out of the job market but are extremely qualified and just looking for something to do. So this is the way, and if I'm getting off track
no,
or
you're not.
talking too much, you guys tell me to shut up. So, everything that you do, and this was taught to me many, many years ago, you have to reverse logistics what you're doing in your life, right? If you say, listen, I want to make $400,000 a year for myself. I want to bring home $400,000. So, you know what? It's recruiting. It's $200 an hour of your time to make $400,000, right? If your time is worth $200 an hour and you're going to be doing postings or launching searches or doing something in, your resume tracking system, whatever it may be, if it's worth $200, if you spend an hour doing it, then by all means do it. But if your $200 could be spent in other ways, generating money, then it's worth it to pay somebody $10 rather than $200. And that's really the way I run my life. It's a value proposition.
And I'm going to jump in here. The women entrepreneurs, the last thing that we do, we're trying to run our businesses and run our houses, and the first thing that you should be doing is hiring an assistant that takes care of your house.
I just did that.
I did exactly what Jeff did. I had this woman show up at my door. She was my next door neighbor. She just had a baby, and she left her job, and she's still with me today, and she is the reason we are where we are today. We're 5 employees, and we're almost at $1 million in revenue. But without her, there's no way. And she does everything from change the sheets to input stuff into the system. Whatever I need her to do, she does. And it's important for us to have that, right?
And how do you pay your assistant?
In the first couple of years in business, she worked for just to be here. I paid her when I could. I paid her off of fees. Right now, we put her on a salary per week, but she worked a whole year with no income from me. And
do you mind sharing what that salary is?
She's at $37,000 now.
Okay.
All right, but again, 5 years with me. She went a whole year without a salary because I just couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
And I went back and we got her. We did things for her. It is a really untapped market. I really tap into that market because as an entrepreneur, there's a lot of smart people out there that can't work normal business hours and are quite happy to help you. Okay?
Yeah, and I know you asked that question to try to get a value of maybe what you should be paying. And I think $37,000 for someone that's been with you 5 years is more. That's fair.
It's more than she would make anywhere else. But you know what?
That's right. And she still gets to leave in the morning, take her kids to school, go have lunch with them when she wants, and then pick them up after the school day's over. I'm guessing, but that's the way it is in my organization.
Yeah, we're flex hours. You come when you can and work in the evenings if you have to. Yep.
When you ask how much do you pay them, you don't have to pay these people a lot of money. They're doing you a favor, but you're doing them a favor also.
90% of them just want to get out of the house.
So true.
It is. They just want a place to work. I mean, we open our office here, and I have 2. At one point, I had 3, but I had 2 assistants, and I still have 2 assistants. But we open our office so you can come in on Tuesdays and Thursdays. These girls are here. I told them they could start at 10. They show up at 9:30. They have coffee in my kitchen. And then they wander through and they do their jobs. At 2 o'clock they leave, and sometimes I'm getting emails from them at 11 o'clock at night. It's just the fact that they want somewhere to be productive, and we teach them. So that's the other thing too.
What is the difference between the project coordinator and the candidate recruiter?
Both of them. A project coordinator will get more involved in helping on the marketing side and interacting with the client. The candidate recruiter, their only job is to go and source the qualified candidates to hand off to the desk recruiter that they're supporting.
So the candidate recruiter is more of a sourcer and is not actually calling them? Or are
No. The candidate recruiter does an initial qualification of the candidates. Their job is to only put what seems to be the qualified candidates in front of the
recruiter. Person. Okay.
Right.
Okay, because I've only had a project coordinator working with me, but we used our project coordinators more like candidate recruiters. She generated the lead, she fed me the 5-point data sheet, and then I took it and ran with it and sold the opportunity and, pojoed them over and did the rest of it. So, okay, that's just all
Jeff,
right. Thank you.
Jeff, one of the things I wanted to ask about, too, is that you do have a social media person. Is that to help you generate candidates, business? What are you using that person for?
Ben is, he's our marketing person, and he does things across the board. So, of course, yes, articles on LinkedIn, of course, Twitter, Facebook, but he is very involved in helping me, I just spoke at the National Diversity Conference. He gets myself, as well as other people in the firm, involved in things that gets our name out there, and also adds a lot of credibility to the firm. That's a luxury that I have.
And I was going to go back
how big is your firm, Jeff?
Altogether, with all offices, 100 recruiters.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay.
And I'm going to throw in here, Laura, you had asked about the project coordinator. I'm tapping into the millennial market because as the girl at Starbucks that I've been adamantly recruiting, she's is an internet stalker, is what she told me. She's like, oh, you recruit? I love finding people on the internet, and I love stalking people. And I was like, that's the skill I need. So they're and it's summertime, so they all are out looking for jobs too. So use that experience.
Rebecca, what's her name? I'll hire her virtually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm constantly.
How many people do you have working for you virtually?
Jeff, how many people do you have working virtually?
Are you talking about in the other satellite offices or people that work from home?
Work from home.
I have 5 people that work from home.
Okay.
Throughout the whole company.
Not a large portion of the 100. Okay.
Now, why only 5 out of the 100?
I like to be able to get my hands on it. Working from home, I have never hired someone who, from the very beginning, worked from home. The people that work from home, for me, have people that have been in an office. Circumstances have changed. Their husband got relocated, and so they were going to have to move but wanted to continue working. Situations like that. I'm a huge believer that having to get up I hope this comes across the right way, that having to get up every day, take a shower, put your clothes on, get in the car, drive to work, and being in a different environment than your kitchen table provokes different actions from the employees than just working from home. I'm not saying people don't do it and aren't good at it. It's just it doesn't work for me.
Mm-hmm.
Even with the systems that you require people to meet the standards, because you're measuring against productivity in my mind. So why are you not just measuring them against that?
I believe I get the productivity because of them going into an office environment. There's something about the electricity in the air of working in an office with other people working and being productive that it stirs up competition amongst the people. And I think that's why they are still productive going into an office. And I don't want to, listen, maybe I'm superstitious, right? It's worked for me. It's got me to where I am today, and so I have no desire to change it. Even if you told me it would work, I like keeping my model consistent all the time.
Good. That really moves us into a really good question about accountability, and we're finding a lot of business owners having trouble holding their employees accountable, and I am a good example of this. So I know my numbers. When I put numbers down on paper, I know that so many submittals will hit a fill. And I find this with other independent recruiters. They go out on their own, and they're able to generate income with very, very small numbers. And then when they bring somebody in, they don't know what numbers to hold them to, and they don't know how to hold them to it. It's the how that really is the question here on the table. How do you hold your people accountable?
We have every morning, and I don't know how big, if there's single-person operations on the phone, then it certainly wouldn't apply. But if you have multiple people working in your organization, there's a call or meeting at 8 o'clock every morning, Dallas time, amongst everybody. Everybody, for the first 30 minutes of the day, we go on what's going on, what's new, what's exciting, what the day before looked like, and that includes phone time and submittals and interviews. And it is what it is. This is the formula. If you're not adhering to the formula, listen, not everybody gets 4 hours every day. Something comes up, something happens, you have a bad day. It happens once in a while. But when you have people that consistently fall below the line, you have to talk to them about it. And if it doesn't change, and this could be experienced recruiters, not just the first 90-day people, then you have to make changes. And you can't be afraid to make a change because it's infectious. Well, Betty Sue didn't do her phone time all week, and now you're coming and picking on me. No, it's the same across the board. These are the expectations in order for you to be successful. And it's not like you're being a slave driver, because the real key to it all is when they begin to work for you. You say, how much money do you want to make? Not make for Mac recruiters. How much money do you want to make? And you make them give you an answer. And when they give you that answer, then you can work it out. Okay, in order for you to make this, this is what you're going to have to do. And in order to do this, you're going to have to be on the phone, or you're going to have this many job orders. You're going to have to make this many placements. It's not vague. It's really using their data from the beginning to have them agree that it's not working for them.
And, we get a lot of people that are the independents that I work with. We put in a production guarantee, and we started doing that because we found a lot of independents were holding on to people longer than they needed to. At what point do you cut ties? At what point do you say, I've had enough, and it's done, it's out?
I think that what you just said is the biggest problem, especially with startup entrepreneurs who may have worked in another company. People, terminating someone, having someone agree that this isn't working out, having that discussion, it's very hard. It's awkward for new entrepreneurs or people that have been small and are trying to grow, but it is necessity in order for you to succeed. You can't just say, I wish someone would work harder, or I wish I would be more successful. There's action plans that you have to abide by in order to get there. That's not being mean or hard or cold. It's just doing your business. Mm-hmm. And I'm a firm believer. I had a kid that worked here who I loved him. I loved the kid. I'm 53, so he was 32. I call him a kid. But I loved him. But it wasn't going to work out for him. And he tried and tried and tried. I said, listen, stay working here. I want you to spend every day looking for the next opportunity for yourself. Go and find something that's going to fit you, your background. Walk in there and be successful. You're only going to be held back by working here. Today he's a regional manager for AT&T, making like $120,000 a year. He never would have made that working here. It wasn't him. I did him the favor. He thanks me now. And you have to look at it as you're helping those people find the right fit for themselves. Not everybody is a recruiter.
The failure rate in the first 3 years is 80%, is what we're seeing. You put your people through training, is that correct?
Yes.
So So when they come in, you're setting expectations right off the bat. You have a job, and I'm just going through some elementary things with you so everybody understands. When you're growing your business, you need to have a job description. You need to have those numbers that they need to hit. You then put them through training, and then you hold them accountable to the numbers. And that shouldn't be a hard conversation to have. It is always a hard conversation in my mind. You know, a lot of recruiters, because we come out of houses that we watched people just running for the front door because they couldn't keep up the numbers, we always want to give somebody a shot. And we can't do that. We have to hold them accountable to the numbers. There's a really good book out there. Jeff, I don't know if you've read the book, Crucial Conversations. And
I have not read that book.
Is there, you know, and I'll ask you at the end about books that you are reading, but it is one book that if you're hiring staff, it is a great book for you to read because it does teach you how to hold somebody accountable. The other book that I had here was The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team by Patrick Laconi. I'm terrible with last names, I apologize. But that's another good book for everybody to sit down and read. Okay. Do you personally watch over their numbers, or do you have managers? You must have managers and things like that. You're not the person that has to terminate. Is that correct?
I am not. I do have managers, but I will tell you, and it's big, and I think the animal laughed at me. We really try to run the company as a family, and we laugh together, we fight together, we cry together. It's a very family-oriented atmosphere. People know about our firm. People come to us asking if they can come work here, and we sometimes turn around as, why should we let you come work here? If someone's going to upset that apple cart, we shy away.
Jeff,
and we do testing. Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
When you first started, I know I came in kind of in the middle. You said you were with MRI. When you broke away from MRI and you went out on your own, did you open an office and stock it with people, or did you work by yourself initially?
No. Funny story is I did work at MRI in Jacksonville, Florida, and I was a large biller there. So large that I was doing about 80% of the revenue and wanted to structure a deal with the owner where I owned half the company and we couldn't work the financials out. He had some unrealistic expectations. From there, it's not that I was out looking. My phone rang one day, and it was Art Lucas, the owner of the Lucas Group, who was calling me. He wanted me to come work for him. He didn't need my money, but his largest biller, he had 300 recruiters, and his largest biller at that time was around $375,000, and he wanted me to come join them because I was $1 million biller, and he wanted me to show the other recruiters how to do that. And I joined there, and it became clear to me after my second year there that, I can do this. And I was an entrepreneur before I ever got involved in recruiting. I wasn't going to work for the money, although I love money. And when my first office, believe it or not, I didn't want to do it out of the house, so I went down the street and rented a one-bedroom apartment for $600 a month, put a computer, fax machine, telephone, and a desk in there. There was nothing else in the apartment, and I went to work there every day just to see how it would go. And it grew from there.
Okay. How long was it before you actually brought people in?
It was probably 4 or 5 months later. I hired my first administrative assistant, and then it grew from there. And then I filled up the apartment, and then moved into office space.
Now, the first people that you hired as recruiters or research, well, actually, what were they? Were they recruiters? Were they researchers? Were they a mix of both?
No.
I may have missed this in the beginning. I apologize if I did.
No, it's fine. In the beginning, after an administrative assistant, I hired 2 researchers. And
they worked on your openings.
Correct. That's correct.
Okay. And
when did you bring somebody in to generate their own orders? When did you finally make that leap to let somebody else do that work?
That was the 5th hire.
Okay. Do you think that's a key to success, that you have to have enough business on your desk to feed other people, or should they feed themselves when they come in? Because that's the other question a lot of people have.
Well, if I'm an entrepreneur back then or today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to work really hard with researchers in the beginning to help me generate additional money, and I could take that money and put it away for the expansion of the full desk recruiters. And we still do that today. I take 10% of the net profit every single month that goes into a separate account for expansion of new employees. And I believe that's a formula that worked for me, and I could see it working for others.
That's great. That actually takes us into the next question about budget for success, okay? Because how much do you reinvest into the company? You're saying 10%?
No, I actually reinvest more than that. I absolutely take 10% each month and put it into a separate account for new hires and expansion and so on. And the money, it adds up pretty quick. If you're making a $20,000 placement and you put, and these researchers, these people that you added, I need to clarify. So
okay.
Everybody has to get paid first, right? So if you're a recruiter and you're generating $250,000 a year working at your kitchen table, you shouldn't change the course of your life that you've established for yourself. When you add people like these researchers, the additional money that you make by them being there is the money that you use to put away to fund your future expansion.
Okay, so let me clarify. I'm going to clarify. You are billing the $250 when you add the researchers. The money that they're adding to the table, you put in the bank for further expansion.
I take 10% of the additional money that they help generate and put it into the bank for additional expansion.
How much is each researcher to you?
I expect them to generate at least $100,000 in additional placements.
Great. So, and these are the moms and the people that you need to help you fill your orders and things like that.
Correct.
And you bring them in local to you.
I do.
Okay.
Yes.
Good.
So
what exactly?
Go ahead. Ask your question.
I'm sorry.
Well, we kind of missed over one point, or we're continuing forward. What kind of training do you actually send your people to? Is it, I've been through the MRI training. Is it like an NLE training? Is it Bar Bruno? How do you train your people?
It's a mixture of actually next level and MRI. I believe the recruiter that I am today is completely attributed to my MRI training. I worked for a mean guy. You could not go home on Friday unless you had 20 hours of phone time. If you had 20 hours of phone time by noon on Friday, he'd let you go home early. But if you were
in our office,
Laura, and I'll just jump in here. We train headhunters. Our training, and just because Jeff probably doesn't know about our training, we train headhunters, and the people graduating our classes are making a placement within the first 45 days of leaving the class. We mandate to them that they have to have 6 send-outs per week, and we ask the business owner to hold them to that. And as long as everybody is on board, we're seeing them generate the numbers that Jeff is talking about in their first year. Yeah. Our training is pretty tough. We've modeled it after some MRI training and some other training that I've been through in the last 20 years. But we're not for everybody, and we'll tell everybody up front we're pretty aggressive trainers. For the independent.
You bring up an interesting point, though, and I think this is a mistake that I've seen a lot of new or small recruiting companies make a mistake on, and that is this. I don't care if I was 5 people or 100 right now. Our training, it lasts 4 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer that you can't take someone and go, listen, this is how you use keyword searches in LinkedIn. Okay, do you get it? You got it? Good. Go to your desk and start working for me. It doesn't work like that. I've tried it. I've failed every time. You have to do step-by-step training with the new employees. And, of course, each day they're getting on the phone longer and longer. But our whole training lasts 30 days.
And that's a great point, because that's the biggest thing that recruiters have is, first of all, they don't know what to train on, and second of all, they don't know how long to keep them in training. we've gotten it down to 1 week just because we don't want to take too much time away from that desk. But we do a follow-up with the candidates within 2 weeks. The whole class comes back together 2 weeks later, and we go through everything. And in between that time, we're working with the business owner and we're working with the recruiter. So our training, again, goes beyond just your classroom because our brand is based on the people we graduate.
Sure.
We're very aggressive, and we tend to be somewhat invasive because we're expecting so much from the people that we train. So it's hard. Yeah. Sorry.
No.
You got to take the time, right? If you don't take the time and you don't hold them accountable, we've been into companies and we've done our training and then gone back 2 weeks later and asked how many sendouts they had, and the manager, we basically 2-3 sendouts, and we look at the manager and go, if you're not holding everybody accountable, what are you doing paying for us?
Exactly.
We're leaving. Right now it's like, forget it. We can't run a company if you're not going to push everything downhill, right? So
I left MRI, but the training, and Jeff, I mean, you just said it in a nutshell. The training that I received through MRI, trying to duplicate that and trying to hire somebody and make sure they have that training, because it absolutely has made me the recruiter I am today, MRI training. I mean, it goes back to the basics if I'm having a lull. But I want to be able to duplicate that, and that's one of the pieces I'm trying to figure out is, okay, if I'm going to hire somebody, I need to have them trained. And I can't train them because I have to be working a desk while I'm paying for them to be trained.
I mean, Rebecca,
Yep.
That's a service you offer, correct? Because
Yeah,
I don't want to make suggestions and cut you out of the loop.
I don't want to derail it, and I don't want to.
Yeah.
I also don't want to cut off what Jeff's going to offer, because he does use next level training, and I love next level training because
I do too
with everybody else, but it is self-directed, and that's the hardest.
That's the part I don't like about it.
Right. So when you're
next
done,
level does have their
Mm-hmm.
web-based. The person gets on the phone every day and goes through classroom for a period of time. I've never done it, but I know they have.
I did it with a staff member once.
How did it work?
It was okay. I mean, it wasn't, it wasn't as good as that training that you or I probably received, and that was the piece. It was him coming in. It was set up maybe 3 calls a week as they went through these modules, and people would show up for calls, people wouldn't on the class, and so it didn't flow as well as I would have liked it. And I actually, I was working with that with another company to get through my non-compete when I left MRI, and I was helping them go through next level exchange, and I stepped in as that person to do that piece, but I don't want to have to do it with somebody. Like, I would rather have somebody else step in. But.
Laura, you can talk to us. We've got, if you don't like our program, we recommend other programs. We're about working with the independents to get them up and running, and we can most certainly recommend a whole bunch of stuff. So we'll talk afterwards. If that's okay.
Thanks. Yeah.
All right.
Sorry.
No, these are great questions. This is why we have this call. I want to be very, it's hard when you're coaching and training, but there are great trainers in the marketplace, and we're all saying the same thing. We're just saying it differently. And, again, I want to make sure that everybody gets lots of good information from today. So let's get into budgeting, because you started to touch on it about the 10%, putting it back into the company, and what it is. You're paying yourself. The key here is that you pay yourself, correct?
Correct.
And then from there, you're building a bank account that will enable you to hire other people. The hardest thing that we see with independents is they cannot focus, and I apologize, I'm one of these people, but focusing on doing it over a year is very difficult. Short-term gains are easier for them to reach. And you said earlier that it took you 5 months before you hired your first person. So it sounds like you're taking the $250, dividing it over months, and then just starting to put that money in the bank already. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, with myself, I'm not sure. Maybe I'm not communicating it right. It's most of the people that are on this phone, maybe all the people on this phone, they're in business and they're making some money, right? They're making some placement. And so what I'm saying is, if you're making $250,000 a year working by yourself, and you want to expand because you have more opportunities and you hire other people, and let's just say they're researchers, project coordinators, candidate recruiters, whatever it is, the additional money that they help generate, let's say your revenue goes from $250,000 a year working by yourself to $400,000 in that year when you add these people to it. You take 10% of that additional $150,000 that you made, and you put it aside to help you fund hiring another person. If you're paying someone $3,000 a month draw or salary or however you choose to do it, you've already got the money set aside for that person to start being a producer. Okay? You've got 5 months worth of salary for that person put aside. And the reality of it is that if you have to set a cap on how much you're willing to pay somebody, and then during the interview process you have to say, listen, I'm going to teach you, I believe you can do it, and I'm going to allot $15,000. We're going to sign an employment contract that says, if you reach the cap of $15,000, you're not getting paid anymore. So you'll probably choose to leave, but I'm going to do everything in my power to get you ramped up and billing. Now, if they work for that 5 months and they've made some placements, but the money hasn't come in yet, you have to be willing to, fund that part until you can get your money back on their draw. But, I hope that logic makes sense.
It does.
That explanation makes
sense.
Yeah,
we get a lot of people that are saving for taxes and saving for this and saving for that, and rather than saving it, quote unquote, for your taxes, save it for the employee, get them in, get them trained, get them up and running.
Right.
In my mind. All right. We're at 3 o'clock. Are you okay to go a little bit longer?
Sure.
Okay.
It's Friday.
Thank you. Thank you. We had a question come in, and it was one of those questions that kind of I thought was a very interesting question here as I'm growing my own business and we're up to 5 employees. The question was, does it get easier? So I'm going to put the question to you. Does it get easier going from 1 to 5 to 100? Does it?
It doesn't get easier. It changes.
Okay.
And so here's the thing that maybe some people have dealt with in their own life. Maybe they're going to deal with it soon with their employees. Every recruiter reaches a point where, whether it's their spouse, their friends, some of their own fellow employees go, why are you staying here and giving away half your money? You're billing $600,000 now and you're making $300,000. Mm-hmm. That guy's making $300,000 off all your work. And it's inevitable. I can even say in my career, my last year at the Lucas Group, I billed $1.6 million. I was like, holy shit, I gave this guy $800,000. Mm-hmm. But so you have to create an environment where you have partners, not employees. So, the things that we've instituted here, and I can't say that I'm responsible for it because I had to pay people much smarter than me to do it, is the equity in the company. People are allowed to buy shares in the company. Each year the value changes, but I have people that actually can, rather than taking their full commissions, they can take less and put the money towards stock in the organization. The long-term hope for me is that eventually 100% of the stock is owned by all the employees. At 53, if I could make that occur in the next 12 years and make a lot of people business owners and make a lot of money, that would make me happy. So those are the things that change. You have to do things No, go ahead.
Oh, do you have, I know you mentioned like your full cycle recruiters are at 50% of the whole deal. That's what you pay them for their commission. Is that the way I understood that?
Correct.
Do you ever go any higher than 50%? Do you have incentive programs, pay setter trips?
I do, and that was
the stock?
Yes. So, you had asked me earlier, so you just take 10% of your money for expansion, and that's it, towards investing in the business, and it's not. We also take, and if I would have known about this years ago, I would have done it when I was much smaller. I mean a 1, 2, or 3 person operation. We take 6% of our total revenue and put it aside for incentives. And incentives vary greatly. The different offices have a budget to go out and have happy hours, do what they want. Last night, we had a happy hour for the Dallas organization here, and there's a lot of people here. It's the employees, their spouses, and any friends or business people that they do business with are invited to the happy hour. It's great to get the spouses involved in the business and let them enjoy the good times. It sometimes even creates competition because, of course, the bigger billers are recognized. So we do that. So we take 6%. Every quarter, we do have Pacesetter trips. Our next trip is to Las Vegas for the people that qualified. And so in the first quarter, and that trip takes place June 10th is a Friday. It's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Anybody who billed over 62.5 in the first quarter is going to Vegas, and we have a pretty big crew going.
Wow.
Our Christmas party.
So it's a quarterly goal, not a yearly goal?
So the big trip will be to Paris.
Okay.
That's the yearly goal. $250,000 in billing.
Okay.
That's it?
That's it. I'll take 10 $250,000 billers over 2 $500,000 billers any day of the week. $500,000 billers are very needy people.
Mm-hmm.
What's that?
What is your PDA?
250. It's actually 250. We have a lot of people that go on the trips, but it's good. It's worth it.
You keep your people longer, first of all, and second of all, when they come back, they're happy to be there. Take it from a headhunter who headhunts recruiters. I probably couldn't pull somebody out of there.
Yeah, I mean, people. This is a good place to work. It's a good deal. Yeah. There was something else. Oh, our Christmas party. Our Christmas party, although I don't know where everyone's from, was at the Gaylord Texan. Rented 100 rooms. Dinners. They have a huge dance club called the Glass Cactus. We had the whole upstairs VIP area. I mean, we spent $46,000 on our Christmas party. The people, we do a lot of fun things, but you have to do it because you have to give them reasons that if they ever think about going somewhere else, okay, do they offer these kinds of things? And most people don't.
So you said it doesn't so much get easier. The issues change. What else? Yeah. What else comes up?
I think that whether you're large or small, you become a mother, a father, a banker, a psychologist. I don't know what other words. An accountant. We have financial advisors that come in here and try to get the people. Recruiters are a funny breed. Recruiters. I have a lot of people that say, hey, I made $500,000 last year working as a recruiter, and that's great. And I see your address is 1212 Lovers Lane, apartment 3B. Do you own a house? No, man, I can't afford a house. You made $500,000 last year. You can't. Oh no, I made $500, but I spent $650. And that no, but that's
it's true.
It is true. Recruiters
don't know how to
never,
manage their money.
recruiters do not know how to manage their money. And the one thing about recruiters, over and over, year after year, they never think the train's going to stop.
Or when it does stop, they panic and they push it forward to make lots of money, and it's gone. Yeah.
Right. So one of the things that I like to instill to my employees is financial responsibility. It doesn't take a lot out of their pay for them to, save and set goals, and this is where I want to be. And there's just everybody knows recruiters spend more than they earn every single time, for the most part.
Yep.
For the most part.
Yep. So what advice do you have? You've given us a lot of really good advice, but is there any questions we haven't asked that we should be asking? It's one of those, you don't know what goes wrong until it goes wrong. Is there something we should have asked? Is there something we should be looking for?
The only thing that I can say is on your way to building, there's nothing wrong with being frugal. And I am not a frugal guy. I am not. But I can tell you that it means more to you. I don't know how other people on this call are going to feel. There could be a building that's on Park Avenue and the 20th floor overlooking New York City, and the rent is $26,000 a month. And there's another one that's in another building in Brooklyn that's, on the first floor of a B-level building, and the rent is $1,500 a month. I could tell you, I have 9 offices around the world. I would say that in a year's time, I may have 5 to 7 clients. And I'm in a beautiful office building now, but I have 5 to 7 clients that actually come into the office. I travel a lot. I go to the clients. Don't let your ego feed into what you're supposed to look like or some certain address. Just do the business.
I love that. I love that.
Make placements.
Yep. Just make placements. You're basically look at your tools around you and see what they're going to net you. An office isn't going to net you what you pay for it.
No. I don't know what else that could be missing.
Okay.
As far as advice, I feel like I've overwhelmed and talked too much, maybe.
No. Again, everybody's pretty quiet and everybody's pretty absorbed. I'm getting a lot of messages on the side here. The future, you and I had talked when we were on the animal show, and again, I'll plug the animal show because, again, it's a good place for people on Wednesday afternoons to kind of let down their hair and blow off some steam. And Jeff's going to be on the show again on May 27th, so it's Recruiting Animals at Blog Talk Radios for those that you want to look it up. We talked about the future. I tried to ask you some questions. I did ask you some questions about the future, but where do you see your company going over the next 5, 10 years? Where do you see?
I think the company will probably, if I said 5 years, will probably grow to 15 locations, at least 3 of those international. We have 3 international now, but we'll have 3 more and maybe 2 more within the United States. And I think that revenue will continue to climb. I think there'll be a thinning of the herd in some areas of recruiting, and there'll be.
Pardon me?
I think I was done.
There was a question. Laura, I think, has a question.
No, I didn't
Sure.
ask a question. I didn't say anything. There was some weird.
Oh, okay.
No, I had a question that was about the international and domestic recruitment. If there's a big difference between the business model depending on the country that you are working out of.
There is in certain instances based on payrolls, and we have been very, very lucky that our 3 international locations, which is Canada, London, and Saudi Arabia, we have been able to convince the clients to pay us on U.S. payroll. But if you get into, India or something like that, the clients are not going to want to pay you on U.S. payroll. They're going to want to pay you on the dollars over there, which certainly, when it's a value proposition of, the work that you're doing and what you're getting paid, sometimes you have to make a decision that it's not the right place for you. We have an opportunity in Shanghai right now to open up an office, and we're negotiating that point. And if it ends up being Shanghai's payroll model, then I probably won't open up the office. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Thank you.
All right. Jeff, I want to thank you so much, A, for going past your time, but thank you for sharing all your knowledge with us. It's been an absolute pleasure, and thank you for making the time. This has been great for us.
Thank you very much. It was great.
I'm glad you guys liked it, and I appreciate you taking the time to listen to my babble. Now, if anybody needs anything, you can connect with me on LinkedIn or send me an email. I'm happy to help anybody I can.
All right. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
You guys.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.